This is the entire Japanese imperial bloodline. Yeah, it's kinda old. As of early 2026, the current emperor of Japan is Naruhito, who ascended the throne in May of 2019, marking the beginning of the Reiwa era. He is the 126th emperor of Japan, part of an imperial line that stretches back around 2600 years, often described as the oldest continuous hereditary monarchy in the world, and one that might be closer to its end than ever before. That's right, reports and headlines like these have been popping up more and more frequently. It's a compelling story, after all. The idea that a country so deeply tied to its traditions and history could lose its imperial family, that feels like a big deal. But is it really? And how serious is this threat actually? Is this just another attention-grabbing headline and a really clickbaity YouTube video title? Or is there maybe something real behind this whole story? Well, first, a little history lesson, what exactly the Japanese imperial bloodline is and how it works. So, as we just established, we are currently at Emperor number 126, the latest in the line that, at least in tradition, stretches back over 2.5 millennia, and one that has long been associated with something far greater than history itself. Because according to Japan's oldest chronicles like the Kojiki and the Nihonshoki, this entire very long lineage begins with this handsome guy, Emperor Jimmu. Let's just call him Jimmy. Now, Jimmy is considered the first emperor of Japan, but did he actually exist? Well, that's where things get a little complicated. Historical records for the earliest emperors are, let's say, not the most reliable. He might have existed, he might not have, but if we go by the traditional account, Jimmy Boy ascended the throne in 660 BCE after establishing his rule in the Yamato region. And that more or less is where the story of Japan as a state begins. But what if we go back even further than that? Like, what came before Jimmy? Well, that is where we leave the realm of history entirely and step straight into mythology. Because the imperial line doesn't just claim ancient origins, it claims divine ones. According to legend, Jimmy, and by extension the entire imperial family, descends from none other than the sun goddess Amaterasu, ruler of the heavenly realm of Takamagahara, and perhaps most importantly, star of the critically acclaimed 2006 video game Okami, as a wolf. In short, Japanese mythology is really cool. The imperial family traces its roots back to literal gods, and the line between myth and history here is, well, it's pretty blurry. In fact, the first emperor we can say with real historical certainty actually existed is Emperor number 21, Yuryaku, who ruled in the 5th century, a cool 1,000 years after Jimmy. Everything before him is generally considered legendary, or at least believed to be legendary. And from there, the line just kept going, and going, and going, and going. As the centuries went by, emperors ruled Japan directly, then lost power to the shogunate for long stretches of time, then saw that power restored, and eventually gave it up again to make way for a modern democratic system. Through wars, political upheaval, and massive cultural change, the one constant was that this line itself never disappeared. There was always an emperor. Sometimes as a powerful ruler, sometimes as more of a symbolic figure, but he was always there. And among those emperors are a few names that you might actually recognize. Take Emperor Meiji, the 122nd emperor who ruled from 1867 to 1912. He's often considered one of the most influential figures in Japanese history, overseeing the Meiji Restoration and Japan's rapid transformation into a modern industrial nation, for better and for worse. Or how about Hirohito, aka Emperor Showa, Japan's longest reigning emperor ever, who parked his divine posterior on the throne from 1926 to 1989. His reign saw World War II, Japan's defeat, and its post-war reconstruction. Also under this guy's reign, Japan adopted a new constitution, one that stripped the emperor of political power and once again redefined the role as largely symbolic, this time within a democratic system. He also had to officially renounce his divinity, which is basically the same thing I did after hitting Master Rank on SF6, hopping on a couple more games of Ranked and realizing I actually suck at this game. By the way, quick side note, if you've ever wondered why Hirohito is also known as Emperor Showa, that's because Japanese emperors receive a posthumous name based on their era. Basically, Hirohito is the guy's personal name, while Showa refers to his reign. The more you know. Anyway, after Hirohito came Akihito and the Heisei era. He ruled for about 30 years before abdicating in 2019, something pretty unheard of in modern Japanese history, to make way for his son, Naruhito. And with that, the Reiwa era began. Which brings us to today. At first glance, things seem pretty damn stable right now, don't they? I mean, Naruhito is in his mid-60s, appears to be in good health, and considering Japan's famous longevity, could very well have a couple more decades left on the throne. So, where exactly is the problem here? Well, to understand that, we also need to take a closer look at how imperial succession in Japan actually works, because the rules are, well, they're pretty specific. According to the Imperial Household Law, Chapter 1, Article 1, and I quote, "The imperial throne shall be succeeded to by a male offspring in a male line belonging to the imperial lineage." In other words, no women, no exceptions. Article 2 then lays out the order of succession in a bit more detail. Number 1, the eldest son of the emperor. Number 2, the eldest son of the emperor's eldest son. Number 3, other descendants of the eldest son of the emperor. Number 4, the second son of the emperor and his descendants. Number 5, other descendants of the emperor. Number 6, brothers of the emperor and their descendants. Number 7, uncles of the emperor and their descendants. Simple enough, right? As long as there's some male heir somewhere in that list, you're good. And for most of Japanese history, that system worked just fine. If things ever got tight, there were even backup options. The so-called cadet branches of the imperial family that could step in and provide an heir if needed. Plus, emperors historically had multiple consorts, which, let's be honest, made producing a male heir a lot more likely. But then, at some point, Japan gradually started to modernize. During the time of Emperor Meiji, that whole multiple consort thing was phased out. Then, after World War II, the new and revised Imperial Household Law limited succession to just the agnatic descendants of Hirohito's father, Emperor Taisho. No more cadet branches, no more adoption, just that small imperial family. And that is where the problems really began. By the early 2000s, during the reign of Akihito, the cracks were really starting to show. His son Naruhito, his successor and the current emperor of Japan, has one child, Princess Aiko, born in 2001. And that's it, which of course is perfectly fine. Just maybe not under these rules, because frankly, under the current law, she cannot inherit the throne. And so the line has to continue elsewhere. But hey, that shouldn't be a problem at all. How about other parts of the family? I mean, that would be fine according to the rules. Well, Akihito also has a brother, Masahito, who has a wife and no children. Alright, so that is one out of the question. But hey, what about cousins? Those count. Well, on that front, we got the late first cousin, Prince Tomohito of Mikasa, who had 2 daughters. Okay, but surely the other cousin, Norihito, was able to produce a man? Nope, 3 whole entire daughters and not a single son. Again, God bless these women, but what the imperial house had on their hands here was quite a unique and complicated problem when it came to succession. But then, in 2006, finally, a glimmer of hope. Because the current emperor actually wasn't Akihito's only son, he had a younger brother, Fumihito, who lo and behold on September 6th of that same year welcomed a son called Hisahito, who would be the new second-in-line heir to the throne right after his own father. Alright, that's crisis averted for the time being. Another emperor secured for the future. You better put that boy in bubble wrap. But all jokes aside, the birth of Hisahito doesn't really solve the succession issue at hand. Rather, it delays it. Sure, he could go on to produce a male heir sometime soon. That's another crisis averted. Thing is, it's not really that easy. For one, just imagine the pressure. He's not even 20 years old at this point, and already the future of a 2,600-year-old dynasty is basically resting on this young man's shoulders. Even international media picking up on this story tells you pretty much everything you need to know about how much pressure this dude must be feeling right now. But then there's also the fact that even if he wanted to, finding a partner for him, that is not as easy as you might think either. What, I hear you say? He's a literal prince. How could it be hard for him to find a girl? I mean, yeah, if all else fails, why not just set the boy up with a Hinge profile and let the girls do the work for him? Well, turns out it ain't all that simple. In short, being the romantic partner of a Japanese successor to the imperial throne is anything but a walk in the park. In fact, there might be even more pressure associated with that role than that of the successor himself. Consider this. As soon as the people get wind of you being the girlfriend or the wife of the future emperor, the only hope to produce another male heir, the pressure is on you. Now that is tough, and history proves it. Take Hisahito's own mother, for instance. She was under immense pressure to produce a male heir until her son finally arrived in 2006. You know, family pressure, the media, the gossip. She struggled for years with stress-related illnesses, most of which surely had to do with the succession crisis she was supposed to solve. If Hisahito were to find a partner, she would have to be brave enough to face pretty much that exact kind of pressure, and a person willing to put up with that is really hard to find. I mean, finding a suitable partner in the big 2026 is difficult as is, but this, whole nother ballgame. Hisahito himself is well aware of what awaits him, by the way. In September of 2025, when he received the black silk and lacquer crown that symbolizes the beginning of a Japanese royal's adult life, he had this to say: "I will fulfill my duties, being aware of my responsibilities as an adult member of the imperial family." Let's all send this young man and his future wife our energy. Like, seriously. So, what happens if everything fails? What if Prince Hisahito somehow grows up, takes his place in the line of succession, simply doesn't have a son? Then what? Well, that is a debate that has been going on since before Hisahito was even born. A debate that was delayed by his birth, yet never completely faded away either. And there are several potential solutions to the problem that have been discussed. The most obvious one of all: allow women to inherit the throne. It makes sense, right? With a 50-50 chance at each imperial family-related birth to get either a boy or a girl, you would basically double your chances at getting a suitable heir too. Well, 100%. Problem solved, right? Well, not quite. Despite strong public support, the idea of a female heir remains somewhat controversial. Some opposition certainly comes down to more conservative views on gender roles, but I think what really makes this so polarizing is simply how much of a shift from the 2,600-year-old tradition it would be. And you know, the Japanese love their traditions, whether they view women as equal or not. After all, allowing a female heir to take the chrysanthemum throne would be absolutely unprecedented. Except that it wouldn't be. Not really. You see, Japan actually has had female rulers in the past. In fact, there have been 8 empresses throughout Japanese history. And most of them were short-lived, temporary reigns, but figures like Empress Suiko, the first historically proven empress of Japan from 593 to 628 CE, ruled for much longer than many of her male counterparts. So yes, women have sat on the throne before. But there's a catch. No matter for how long they ruled, these empresses were typically seen as temporary rulers. Crucially, they did not pass the throne on to their own children. Instead, the system remained firmly rooted in the male line. Basically, this means that allowing a woman to rule wouldn't be completely new or anything, but allowing her descendants to continue the line would be. And that is where the real debate lies. But interestingly, female reigns actually only became officially prohibited with the Imperial Household Law of 1889 under Emperor Meiji. Also, if abolishing traditions like that whole multiple consort thingy and the ancient cadet branches of the imperial family was okay, why should this be crossing the line? Actually, it would kind of fit with the times too. I mean, Japan recently got its first ever female prime minister who is opposed to having a female heir to the throne. Okay. If you ask me about the whole female heir thing, I say go for it. Empresses are kind of awesome anyway. But what if that doesn't make the cut? Well, there are a few other potential options that are perhaps a bit more likely to actually make it into the new Imperial Household Law. For example, you could bring back the members and descendants of former imperial family branches who have lost their imperial status in the past. This would greatly expand the pool of potential male heirs, while also continuing the descent from the first emperor, the Bansei Ike as the Japanese call it. Then there's the possibility of reinstating the imperial status of those who were demoted to commoner status in the past. This mainly includes the 11 houses that descend from the Fushimi no Miya house, a group of families who had to leave their imperial status behind in 1947 due to economical reasons following the end of World War II. In many ways, the members of these houses meet the criteria. Not only do they have a direct bloodline connection to the first emperor, which, is basically what the people want, but they also have ongoing strong ties to the current imperial family anyway. Even Hirohito himself, upon these houses leaving the imperial family, expressed his expectation that they would probably have to come back at some point to save the bloodline. Would you look at that, we got a profit over here. So, those are pretty much the options available to the Japanese when it comes to saving their 2600-year-old continuous imperial bloodline. I gotta be honest, while I obviously love everything historic and old about Japan, well, except the war crimes and all of that stuff, I kinda went into researching this topic thinking, yeah, that would be kind of a bummer, but does it really matter if you don't have an imperial family anymore? And you know what? I kinda changed my mind. As someone who never lived in a country with an existing family of monarchs, it's easy to dismiss the concept as an unnecessary thing of the past. But at least in this case, I'll say do your best to keep it around, for multiple reasons. For one, it's just so easy to not let the Japanese imperial family disappear, right? The big question of this entire story is, will the Japanese imperial family go extinct? And the answer to that question is almost definitively a resounding no. We just weighed all the different options. Even if Hisahito should fail to have a son, it's not really that hard to just reinstate former members, or even better, give the girls a shot. But even ignoring all of that, I think the imperial family of Japan is worth keeping around for one particular reason. It's not all that unimportant. Have the emperors of Japan been symbolic for much of their long history? Sure, but symbolic doesn't mean unimportant. Having that one constant looming in the background no matter what, that can have a positive effect on a nation and its people. Hell, did you know that the only reason the American occupation didn't put an end to the imperial family of Japan after World War II was because they considered it to be important? It was thought that keeping Hirohito and the imperial family would guarantee a smoother occupation and administration in what was a very, very tense moment in Japanese history. You can say what you will about the American occupation of Japan. Mistakes were definitely made, but even they realized that the emperor was an important symbol to the Japanese people in times of need. that symbolism might just have a place even in modern times. In short, while the emperor isn't really a ruler, he's like a living thread tying Japan's past to its present. To the Japanese especially, the past is kind of important. Even with Japan not in the worst place it's ever been in at the moment, the world is kinda going crazy right now, and the moment akin to the aftermath of World War II could, God forbid, come again sometime in the future. And maybe Japan would be a bit worse off if it didn't have such a symbol when that time comes. But to end this video on a high note, I don't think imperial extinction will become a reality in Japan, whether it be through Hisahito's son, a daughter of the family, or some other solution. And because of that, I think that the imperial bloodline of Japan might just have another 2600 years ahead of it. And that's it for this video. You know what to do next. Subscribe if you're new here, like if you enjoyed the video, visit the link on your screen if you want to join the Aniki Imperial family over on Patreon starting at just $1 per month. Speaking of which, massive shout out to all my brothers and sisters who've already joined, including the Hockey Channelman, Sachsenfuchs, D-Fox, Saikajo, Khalid Lepta, Xoyabu, Tricoat, Kevin Hickson, Buns, Michael Smith, RK0, Hachimeno James, Utku Hussein Kaya, Steve Matsui, Hypanen, Javier Soravia, Midnight Channel, CJ and Mary, Turam, Journeyman 351, Cats and Soup, Chart B-Man, Ben Herodine, White Gilden, Sierran DC, T-Bird, Metal Mama, Boo Boo Cakes, Ian Farmer, Chris Wallace, JR Horse, Adeye Okono, and Guillaume Clément E. Garcia. To you and to anyone who tuned in this time, thank you so much for watching. じゃあ、またね。